Hello, we're live. We did it. Hello and welcome to a live stream full of friendship, feelings, and snark. Welcome back. We're not going to introduce ourselves again, right? We did our introduction. We can get to it. Cool. And welcome to our third live stream about episode 4 of Agatha All Along. We're gonna, as always, this is gonna be incredibly spoiler heavy. You've been warned, and we're gonna kick it off with a plot synopsis.
Yeah, so we are up to episode 4 of Agatha All Along. So it is my job now to tell you what happened in this episode, which was really funny because before we went live, I got on this live show and was like, wait, what happened in this episode? So, here we go. Our bestie, Sharon, Mrs. Hart, remains dead. And that is where R.I.P. where we started the episode. I feel like the writers of the episode somehow heard our live stream and were like, yeah, you guys keep hoping. She did.
I still do not accept this information.
I mean, in team, maybe she's not that dead. The opening of the show is Agatha over the corpse, telling the corpse, I didn't think you had it in you. And when Teen, who is the voice of the audience, goes, huh? What do you mean by that? Agatha just gives us her signature wink, which is really rude, but also I am not giving up hope that Mrs. Hart is not dead.
Yes.
Alice, meanwhile, is being very quiet, and Patty LuPone and Jen think this might be because her mother died on the road, which to this point we have always assumed meant that she died on the Witches' Road. But Alice means that literally her mother died on tour in a hotel fire, not on the Witches' Road. So she is dead. Alice is not here trying to find her mother. She is here because her mother told her that the Witches' Road would save her. Agatha is ready to move on. She's like, okay, R.I.P. Mrs. Hart. We got things to do. But her coven is like, girl, because we have to finish burying Sharon, and also we need a green witch. Like that, there's a formula here to the coven, and now we are down a green witch because they're still under the impression that Mrs. Hart was a green witch. I kind of think she is too a little.
Okay. Yes, and also though, like I feel like they have seen the same, like no, they didn't see all of WandaVision like we did, but they did see all of, like those 3 preceding episodes like we did. Yeah. So I am a little confused by that, but whatever.
And also they know Agatha, so they like, I don't know, she would have lied to you. Yes, she would have grabbed a woman and been like, this is a green witch.
Here you go. Let's.
At this point, Agatha and Jen bicker about whether or not the whole coven is needed to continue on the road. Agatha thinks that you just needed the coven to access the road, but like whoever makes it at the end makes it at the end. Jen says, well, let's ask Alice, since her mother was the one who wrote the most famous version of the ballad. Instead, Alice asks Agatha how many witches left the road with Agatha last time that she was here, and Agatha holds up a single finger. I also feel like she kind of points to herself a little bit. There's like a little bit of a little one me.
One and it's me, not me and one. The question was with you, but
yeah, sure. I was with myself. The bickering continues about whether or not they need a green witch and whose fault it is that Mrs. Hart is dead. Suddenly, Agatha is on board with Plan Green Witch and proposes that they summon a green witch to the road. The episode does not really spend any time explaining how or why this is possible, so we just go with it. We go straight into the summoning, where they ask for very specific qualities. They want to be specific about like the witch that they're summoning, so it's like best in her craft and not super political, and also can she bring some Advil, which
we never really got confirmation about whether she brought the Advil.
I'd like to think somewhere in her pocket she's gonna be like, oh, what's this? It takes a moment, but the summoning does work. And up from Mrs. Hart's grave or thereabouts comes Rio Vidal. Agatha is not super happy to see her and she like stomps off. And in introducing herself to the rest of the coven, Rio clarifies that she's less a Green Witch and she's more the Green Witch. The coven is very confused by her hot weirdness. It's giving very much, do I hate her or do I want her phone number? So fair.
These are important questions.
They only walk a little ways before they get to their next trial, and Alice immediately recognizes it as her own trial. Like she recognizes the house, and she tries to avoid going inside. She's like, "Yeah, I'm done. Pass on this." But the road won't actually let them escape the trial. They have to go inside. So, inside, they immediately get a new wardrobe, a new aspect ratio.
My favorite part, really. It is.
It's very 70s rocker vibes inside. Teen, who is the only, like, he is the brains of this operation, immediately suggests that they look for a riddle or for a clue that, like, kicks off the trial, because that's what happened in the last house. So they all spread out to explore. A couple of spooky things happen. So there's, like, paintings and things on the wall that depict like witches burning or being tortured. We see masks on the wall, and there's like spooky eyes inside of one of them as well. And Patti LuPone just walks around saying prescient things, spooky all around. Rio finds Agatha in the recording booth. Agatha says maybe this is a shot for her and Rio to have one more adventure together, work and play, give it another go. But unbeknownst to Rio, Agatha turns on the microphone so the rest of the coven can hear when Rio says she wants to watch Agatha do what she does best, which is kill all of the witches around her. Then Agatha gets their powers and Rio gets their bodies. Agatha very dramatically objects, no, those are my friends. I would never, which is how Rio notices that the mic was hot. So there's no time to dwell on all of this, though, because it's trial time. Teen found a record that had Play Me on it, but now it's playing backwards, which honestly is what my like Christian evangelical family was happening on like rock albums, is that if you played it backwards, there were like demonic things on it.
This is like everything that you, this is it right here playing out. You would immediately be like, I knew it.
Somewhere in some youth group coming up, they're going to show a clip of the show and be like, and see the devil music.
This is what happens. Just that clip.
And this is the clip.
They'll do that clip, and then they'll cut to the later when with the demon.
Yes, exactly. And we're like, see, curses on the devil. Because they have in fact been now cursed by the devil music. A metronome starts ticking, which means that their time is ticking. They got to figure out how to beat the curse. The curse starts striking members of the coven, causing them to scream in pain, and they start to get these gashes in their shoulder. Alice draws protection circles around those who get attacked first, but the only way to end the curse is to face it. Alice realizes that the curse they've been cursed with is her curse. She shows everyone the scars on her shoulders. Her mother had the same ones, which means they are dealing with a generational curse. Teen gets yeeted through the glass into the recording studio by the curse. So it's time to get serious here. And by get serious, I mean they have to play and sing. In order to
get serious about our musical number.
They have to sing Lorna's version, Alice's mom's version of the ballad, because it is in fact a protection spell. They are protection witches. Lorna's ballad is a protection spell. And it means maybe that if like Alice can like face up to this, play the song, that maybe this protection spell can protect them. They play and they play fire, demons, and they're still playing. Teen is like bleeding out because when he got tossed through the window, he got he has glass in his belly. So he's bleeding, but they keep playing until the curse is broken. The curse demon burns up and leaves Alice alone. Unfortunately, Teen is indeed bleeding out. The exit to the house comes via the piano. So by the time they have to like carry Teen's body out of the exit. And when they're outside, he is now unconscious. Um, Agatha has a very emotional moment kind of over his body. She looks at Rio while this is happening and tells her, "Don't." Which I was very confused about how all of this was like going on until later on in the episode, but we'll get there. So she tells her don't, and then turns to Jen and like pleads with Jen to help him out. So Jen thinks on her feet and does a healing spell with some water and some moonlight, and it works. It like heals the gash, but Teen is still unconscious. So Agatha sits apart with Teen and like is watching over him. She even like his coat is over his little body like a blanket. It was very sweet. While the other witches of the coven are around the fire and like having girly bonding times about battle scars. And then Teen does eventually wake up and shares a sweet little moment with Agatha, and he decides to capitalize on this moment and ask some questions. So he asks about if she was the one who put the sigil on him, but she wouldn't know anyways because the sigil works on whoever cast it as well. So the only way to break the sigil is like if you don't need it anymore. And then Teen was like, okay, that went well. Let me ask another question. What happened to your son? And Agatha's like, bye. No more questions. And she just like gets up and leaves. And so back at the fire with the other witches, Rio is trying to join in on like girly chats in like the worst, most awkward way possible as well. Since they were all sharing stories about their scars, she's like, I have a scar, which Agatha hilariously is like, no, you don't. Which but Rio
how do you know?
How do you know?
How do you know that information?
Explain. But Rio says that her scar is that she once loved a woman and had to do something for her job that hurt this woman, and so that is the scar that she carries. Anything else? What was the end of this episode?
Then the two of them are like off by themselves and they almost kiss. And then Rio is like, that boy isn't yours.
Yes. Like Rio, like queen of bad timing, instead of taking her little smooches,
right. Take your little smooches and then
lay down the truth bomb.
More importantly, let us have the little smooches. We the audience.
Oh, but the truth bomb was that Rio told her that boy is not hers. And Agatha doesn't want to hear that truth bomb either. And she walks away.
Once again, she walks away. Agatha, queen of walking away. I don't like this conversation.
She's doing a lot of that.
Yeah.
We humbly request.
Listen, this week the request is humble. Eventually, the request will change its tone. Yeah.
The end.
Woo! Okay, so now we're going to start where we always start. Did you like it?
I did. I like this one as well. Again, we're going to say this probably at the top of every episode, but it would take like a lot for me to for this to be derailed in terms of my enjoyment. Yeah. I do feel like, and my prevailing feeling that carried over from last week to this week is that these episodes feel a little short and a little jam-packed. And I think that the way that they're like the thing that it's the most disservice to is like our B plots of like the witches and the trials, because this didn't feel like an Alice episode. This felt like a Rio and Agatha episode in a lot of ways. And then again, I just have so many questions about Alice, and she's like not doing witchcraft, but she did protection around like protection circles around everyone. And like there are things like that I want to hear more of. So my big complaint, I feel like week over week is going to be like, give me more.
Like 90-minute episodes.
So maybe a lot of these things will eventually be answered, but they leave me like a little bit like in every episode, like wanting. But again, super enjoyed it, having a blast, and wanting more is like not a bad sort of complaint to have.
Sure. Yeah. I would. I don't know necessarily that many of those things are going to get answered. Like we only have 9 episodes. We still have more trials to go, like based on the way that, anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself a little bit. I really like this. I actually liked this more than the pilot was really, really strong. So I don't know that I would say I liked it more than the first episode of the show, but I think this was my of like 2, 3, 4. This one was my favorite. I just the way in which or at the very least of the 2 trial episodes, this trial episode I thought was really cool in that just like thematically what we were doing. The thing about the potions episode, it's like we were sort of setting up the structure of the trials and like the thing that we were going to be doing throughout. And your sort of note about like wanting to know more about Alice, I actually did feel like this episode wound up being much more of an Alice episode than like the potions episode, and it was a Jen episode. Like the actual sort of thing, it was a potion, and so Jen had to figure it out, but we were doing everybody's flashbacks there, whereas like this was the trial was Alice's generational curse, and so like the whole thing, it wasn't just the like protections, should like it, you know, the potions thing. It was you needed heavily to rely on the potions witch because ultimately you needed a potion. This one you needed your protections witch because you needed to protect yourself from the curse, and like the whole thing too was that, you know, Alice had previously assumed that the purpose of the song was her mother trying to open the road, and that she was sort of letting all of the audiences like be her coven. But like Agatha is like, no, that is not. She wasn't opening the road. The thing that is different about this version is that it's a protection spell. And so I don't know, like to me, it actually did a better job of sort of weaving the character stuff in with the sort of like stock, okay, this is your sort of witch archetype in there. And there are things about this that actually kind of felt very like peak Buffy, like Buffy at its best, the sort of you know, high school hellmouth, like that, those kinds of like big, you know, somewhat overwrought metaphors, but like in a way that is like very fitting. And I think that, I don't know, like just the idea of generational trauma as like a literal demon sitting on her shoulders and like weighing her down. I don't know. I love that shit. I I really, really enjoyed that.
Yeah.
And I continue to be just such a huge fan of the production stuff, but that's maybe a slightly separate thread. But I really, really loved this episode.
Yeah, I think that maybe it is like not a fault necessarily of the episode or the writing itself. Like there is a way that like a lot of the like flair of the episode came via Agatha and Rio.
Sure.
Stages maybe the Alice stuff, but I do agree that like so I think that the potions episode did a better job sort of exploring the witchy element of her as a potions witch, and this episode did a better job exploring like the emotional and backstory stuff of this character. Like we still don't understand the witchy stuff when it comes to Alice. Like what powers does she have? Like that's the big. So I feel like each of them.
She's got a knife. She drew in the ground. I don't know, man.
Each of them did a piece of like either the backstory or the witchcraft stuff. So Jen got the witchcraft and Alice got the backstory. We haven't seen the episode yet that has managed to answer sort of both ends of those questions. But I love the comparison to Buffy. That's really interesting as the whole like metaphor thing. And I love that like sort of thematically throughout that as well. Like a thing that she is facing is having been like angry all her life. And that sort of like grief and anger pairing, and the idea of like her mom leaving her or not being there for her, and then like, you know, sort of having to switch that out if she faces this with sadness of just being sad that she lost her mother, you know, like
that moment where they're sitting around the fire and Patti LuPone is like, you know, it's like sadness is better than anger. I just wanted to be like, ma'am, actually, I fundamentally disagree. Actually, you're wrong. Of those two, I mean, you're right in that, you know, like in a very the only way out is through sort of way. The sadness is better. The sad, like it's, you know, whatever. But like, there's a way in which anger, when you are angry, it feels infinitely less helpless than sadness. And when you get like sitting in the place of your grief that is pure sadness, is pure, like this is
helplessness.
I am helpless. Like, this is terrible, and this whatever. And there's a way that, like, being angry and being sort of riled up has this feeling of, like, you're actually equally as helpless in both states,
Mhm.
but the feeling you have in the sort of riled up angry state is like, I'm gonna, like, punch God. Like, like, it is this. It's like, I'm gonna rah, whereas when you're just sad, you're like, well, that's it.
Yeah. There's
Bad things happen.
And there's something like equally tragic about this idea of like the thing that she has been sort of like punching against and hating this whole time, which is this song, is a thing that has been protecting her whole life,
Right.
right? Like the fact that it's still alive and people are still singing it is this constant sort of like incantation of this like protection. And it's the thing that she's hated her whole life. So there's
Mhm.
like that additional sort of like resentment and grief and sadness. And I thought that that was all like emotionally resonant. And in fact, again, my thing is like, I wanted to sit there more than like, some of the things that we were doing. Or I mean, I don't want to sacrifice anything that was in this
Right, right.
episode.
Yeah, I just want the episode longer.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just another like 15, because I think these were like, they're like 45-ish minutes. So like, even if we were just dealing with like a full hour.
Howard. That's it. I feel like it needs like another 15 minutes to be like a full hour episode. And there's enough here because we have an ensemble cast and each of them is dealing with like personal backstory, plus their powers, plus them coming together, the collaboration, the trial in each episode. There's so much going on. I just need like 15 more minutes to each
Yeah, the thing about this too is that, like, with this episode in particular, like the way that this episode played out, I do feel like we've sort of narratively kind of like tied up out like Alice's story. Like, I don't think we'll probably see more of Alice's your sort of thing that you're like, I want more of the like witchy, that you probably will get. I
Yeah.
think Alice's story we've probably like,
Yeah.
we got it. This
I
is
think
what it is. She's
especially since her
released the
mom's dead.
curse.
Yeah, her mom's dead. If there was like maybe she's still on the road, there was that like lingering
You
sort
could
of
find
question.
her out
Like,
there.
no, no,
Yeah.
no, she's dead. The curse is gone. Like that seems pretty well tied up, unless there's like some huge other twist.
Unless they bring her mom back when they bring Sharon back.
Yeah. Just resurrect everyone, like a big Avengers style end scene
Yeah,
where like all.
yeah. Yeah, the sort of like Thanos snap, but for witches.
Uh-huh.
Uh,
It's just like all of their dead loved ones.
mhm, to appear, crawl out of their great. I'm ready.
Unless Marvel.
Call me, call me Marvel. Yes, resurrect everyone, and then they have a flash mob. This
Right.
whole show is like a musical. Um, I'm seeing the vision,
I'm seeing
and
it, and I love it.
I love it. Let's see. Anything else about the generational curses protection spell of it all? I had this in my notes as big themes, generational curses, the songs of protection spell. This isn't a question, but I don't know. I'll fix it in post.
Is this you fixing it in post? Is
Yeah.
just reading the question?
That's correct. That's correct. This is me. Just laying it out there. I'm workshopping it as a group.
Yeah.
That's how I'm fixing it.
I will say I haven't been like super in like keeping up with like reaction to the show or like reading theories or anything like that because we went like ham for WandaVision.
Yes.
I'm really staying true to like not absorbing a lot of that this time around and
You're
just
just
like
letting the experience be.
the experience. But I did see one thing. I was actually just looking something up about like one of the witches or whatever, and I came across like a larger article that was like a review of this episode, and their like complaint was that the musical number in this was also the ballad, and so it's like how many times are we going to do the ballad over and like and let it be like
I'm ready to do every version of the ballad. I want a ballad for every era. We got like
genre.
cool chanty ballad. I loved that. 70s like Fleetwood Mac ballad was also a bop. I'm ready for it. I'm down for the 80s. Like, let's go. I'm ready.
Ballad in every genre. And honestly,
Yeah.
if the ballad is the answer to every question, I'm down with that too.
I'm okay
I
with
feel
that.
like whoever that article or that person was, they're not catching the vibe here.
Yes, failing to like accurately catch the sort of vibe here. I mean, I think this is something that we've talked about in like our larger MCU content, is like one of the things that is to me interesting about the larger project here, and is part of why I get a little sort of like, I bristle and get defensive when people are dismissive of just like the MCU more broadly, is that they are all like pretty, there are, I shouldn't say they're all, some of them are kind of samey. There are many very distinct kinds of projects across the broader MCU, and I do feel like this is very much an entity of its like unto itself. And I feel like maybe there's a way in which if you really loved certain things that the MCU was doing before, that maybe this very different thing is just not for you. And I'm sorry, but it's for me. Yeah. The finale is just 43 minutes of Patti LuPone's ballad. Yeah. That's correct.
So yes, it's for the people who want to see the 43-minute finale of Patti LuPone's ballad only.
Yeah. That's very much like, if that sounds appealing to you, then that is who this show was made for. Like,
Correct.
that's very much those two things are in line. Speaking of Patti LuPone, in this episode, they had her on like 5 different like the instruments. Like they
every time it like flashed back to her, she was playing another instrument.
different little shaky object. The triangle. She had these homies in the beginning, and then she had the triangle. She had a tambourine. It was great. I loved that. A very delightful little gag. Jumping off of that a little bit, production elements. I mentioned that is part of what I loved about this. Did you have any sort of like big highlights in this one for you?
I just love the look of the show so much. Again, the big like sort of comparison, or like the transition between the road into whatever the trial is, and like the look and feel of that transition is so wonderful. We joked about like the aspect ratio of it all, and like the way that you immediately feel like you're somewhere else when you're inside the trial. But like with the road specifically this time around, the fall leaves on everything, like on the road, I thought was really neat, and just like a way that it get even on the road, like it feels like it's differentiating a little bit as we kind of like walk along it. And there were like a few things like when they're doing the incantation to call the Green Witch, like they have got a body outline, and it's outlined in fall leaves, but it's also called to like the fact that Mrs. Hart had just like died in that specific area. So there are like a lot of like really neat visual continuity things as well that are happening in this one. There's like a flower that Rio Vidal comes with, and she like offers it to Agatha, and then later she's wearing that flower like in her hair, and so there's such like neat little like continuity things visually. Before they enter each house, like there's been like a phase of the moon, and this time like almost bedazzled on the door, and it looks so freaking cool. I was like, that's my front door. I want waning moon. Give it to me.
Yeah, new DIY projects.
Yeah.
I'm sure your landlord won't mind.
One bit.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a ton to add, but I really, really enjoy visually just the show. I really, really enjoy looking at this show. I think that the ways in which the show is like visually signaling the differences between being on the road and then you're in the trial, and not just like you're in the trial, but like the sort of, there's a way in which the vibe of like the potions trial, like there were some like marked differences between not just like the aesthetic of the house, but just like the way that it was shot. Like there are lots of things about like the way that the potions house was shot was much more reminiscent of, again, sort of a Big Little Lies, whereas this had a couple little like there was a little bit of like 70s flair to the like the production of the trial itself as well. So I don't know, I continue to be delighted by looking at this show in addition to loving everything that it's doing sort of narratively and with these characters and only wanting more.
Yeah. I think it's really neat too that in each sort of trial they're capturing multiple things, and they're doing that visually as well. So it's like each trial belongs to one of the witches, but they each like an element associated with them as well. So the first one was water, and so we get that really cool scene of the like water rushing in and then being sort of underwater, and like the almost like blue tone to like the things that you are seeing. And this one is fire, so we've got all of those warm 70s colors that are like browns and like reds and oranges that lend themselves really well when things actually start to light on fire for the end of the trial as well. So like the way that they are balancing sort of like multiple themes in each setting as well, I think it's like very, very well done.
So speaking of the elements, the elemental of it all, Earth. Who is Rio? Who is that? Who do we think that is?
Great question. Me like not paying attention to any theories online.
So I will then start having said. I have seen, I wasn't like seeking anything out, didn't really encounter anything previously, but just in the last couple of days, like for this episode, so I don't know if it's just that there's like, as the show goes on, there's like an uptick in discourse because now people have more stuff sort of like to pick at. So I have seen a couple things from this episode. I'm really glad I watched it like right when it came out because I knew what people were talking about. Otherwise I would have been very, very stressed. Not like from a spoilers perspective, but just literally like, what are you saying? And I've seen multiple people say that she is death. And I went back to rewatch again. We have said this before, but just for like catching everybody up, our context is just the MCU itself. I don't know shit about the comics. I know like the 90s X-Men cartoon. And that's like kind of it. That's really all I've got in the way of other like Marvel stuff. So any sort of theories about who or what somebody is, I don't know, man. Like with like Mephisto, I don't know who fucking Mephisto is. Everybody being like, oh, Mephisto, bad guy, demonic bad guy. Sounds like to me. I don't know. Sure. Death. I know about that one. We got that one here. So anyway, rewatched this episode with like a specific eye towards that, like that theory. And I'm like, oh, that tracks. Like that with this episode in particular. It's the like when she appears, she was in the neighborhood. Yes. There's like, you know, Agatha looking at her to be like, no, don't. With Teen's body, etc. etc. Oh, Funko Pop spoiler. What does that mean? Miriam, tell us what the Funko Pop spoiler is. While we wait, you go ahead.
So the whole like who is Rio thing, I think that like previous to the show airing, the like general knowledge was that this character was created for Agatha all along. Like that's I mean, I wouldn't put it past the like MCU to be like, yeah, new character, and all along it was like someone we know or some iteration of someone we know. But if it is like truly a creation for Agatha all along, it being like death, I think is like a thing that it's a neat twist without necessarily pulling from like the MCU backlist, right?
Yeah.
The character, but it also isn't it like who you thought a little more to who you thought this person was. I think that it like of all of like the clues that we got in this episode, you mentioned like the don't piece of it. But also like the like I'm not a green witch, I'm the green witch. I think it's like a little clue to like, you know, I'm not just a witch, like there's something else here to me. I am like some other sort of like thing that I thought was really neat as well.
I assumed that people who were saying that it was death, that she's death, were like doing like some deep digging, like deep like theory. No, they literally they released
that's weird. Funko Pop, we're not there yet.
That's amazing. That's incredible. It's always like, oh, what are the actors? It's always, the like the Tom Holland of it all. No, Funko Pop. Spoiled the show. Amazing, incredible.
Which, I mean, that like whole Rio is death sort of thing means that it shines like a new sort of light on the like Rio Agatha backstory and like what exactly happened between them. I mean, clearly they were girlfriends. They
Oh
were
yeah,
lovers.
obvious.
But in this episode, we get like another hint of like what actually happened, and it was that Death was doing her job and it hurt Agatha. And like we know that the person that Agatha lost is her son. So like, what happened there,
Right.
exactly. And it lends itself to the idea that Agatha did not sacrifice her son for the Darkhold, which is like the rumor that that's what she did. But like everything about her reaction and the way that Rio has told us that like it hurt her, whatever Rio did, makes it seem like that rumor isn't quite all the truth,
Yeah, or if it is that she said it, like an unwitting whatever, that it's not it is not quite the way that people are representing it. Yeah. I am honestly just gonna like periodically for the next week laugh to myself at how impressed I was with people with this theory.
Like, this theory of death.
We literally saw Funko Pop. Wow, you guys are great. Anyway, speaking of who people are, who do we think Teen is?
No, he's definitely not Agatha's son. I don't know. Unlike, not that like Rio couldn't be lying, but I feel like the very clear that's not your son is we also felt that way last episode where it's like giving us hint clues, but it felt like misdirection more than actual clues was the thing. So like having now that confirmed here, but also like I don't know, there was like a way that sort of like emotionally you could tell that even if this teen boy is not her son, it is a teen boy, that it's almost like it could have been my son. Like that's like where the
yes, totally. Yes. It's the, he's not my son, but like he is. I could have had a teen boy who, wanted to come with me on the witch's road, just wanted to go on a road trip with me.
He has the same hobby as his mom.
Oh my God. Every mother's dream. I don't really have any other sort of like strong theories, feelings. I again without having sort of a strong investment. I think one of the things with like a lot of the theory fixation is that if you don't like, I don't know who like characters are outside. So like until the MCU tells me who he is, I don't like. He's teen.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think that's probably why I'm leaning towards wanting it to be Billy, Wanda's son, because like I already know that one. And so it's like very satisfying to me personally as a person who knows one other teen boy.
I know. I met that one. I met two little boys on this show.
And so if that is one of those little boys, that will be really satisfying to me. And I like it also in that it is an easy answer, and because I don't like things that go out of their way to be sort of like unexpected. I want something that is like narratively satisfying, and I feel like Agatha ferrying this teen boy around the witch's road and it turning out to be Wanda's son is very narratively satisfying. And I don't think that we're meant to like not guess that at this point, right? They're hinting at it enough that it's supposed to be a thing that we can figure out. So if at the end of this, it just turns out, oh no, this is this obscure character from such and such comic run, and we're telling you who it is, that feels less narratively satisfying to me personally as a viewer, but it is what it is.
I mean, it depends how much additional like setup is given, like additional context is given for what tie. Like he can be somebody else, some other like whatever random character we've never met. It's just like what then is the connection that his connection to Agatha. There should be some connection to Agatha, some reason why these two wound up together going down the road.
Yeah.
So anyway.
Yeah.
Let's see. Who is Teen? We talked about him. Who is Rio? Agatha backstory. We kind of talked about. Any other? Yeah, they were they were a thing. Rio, whose death confirmed by Funko Pop.
Thanks, Funko Pop.
Thanks, Funko Pop. Any thoughts on Sharon? On how Sharon, her fate, her future?
I want to believe she's not dead. I honestly cannot accept her death at this point.
Yeah.
And so anything that I say is not really grounded in any sort of reality. It is pure manifestation at this point that
sure.
Mrs. Hart is not dead. Like I can't believe. I mean, death coming up out of her grave is a big indicator that she might be dead.
It is. It sure is. I will say that is not great for my Sharon theories. However, well, I guess I was rewatching before I realized that Funko Pop had told us that she's deaf. And last weekend. And like going back over it in the first episode, Rio heals Agatha. So she's got some, like, her magic includes healing of some kind, but also they had the potions, they had Jen doing the healing in this episode. So I don't 100% know what this is. Like, maybe it has something, maybe she can only heal Agatha. I don't know. But if she's deaf, can she return? If she's deaf, can she just say, you know what, I'll send this one back?
Yeah. I don't know. That scene specifically confused me a little bit because when Agatha is like crying over Teen's body and she like looks up, well, first Patti LuPone is saying something like really trite, right? Like he's young and he's strong, and she tells her don't, like, you know, but then she like looks over and Rio is there like looking back at her and she tells her don't. And immediately my head goes to, well, what do you mean don't? Because she's a healer. Like I was expecting in this moment that Rio would heal Teen Boy.
Yeah.
And, you know, at that point I hadn't really like fully like connected everything on Rio being deaf. So my brain just immediately went back to the hand licking scene and being like, okay, no, wait, we got to heal her. Like, you know, that's what's changed between Mrs. Hart's death and now is that we actually have
a real Green Witch, and thus we have a real healer.
Yes. So when she tells her don't, that confused me a little bit. And then I went, like, my brain next went to the fact that they were like that, like Agatha was stop. If she licked his belly, it would have been amazing. Listen, but Tina's gay, so I feel like there's like some queer, like,
she can only heal the gays. Those are the rules. I don't know.
So after that, like I went back to like the scene in the recording studio where like Agatha was putting on the show of like, no, don't hurt my coven witches. And I'm like, is she only pretending to be upset about Teen's death, but she wants him to die and like that kind of thing. And then like later, that's when I like kind of resolved everything in my head. So I was very confused for a bit, only because of that like healing question mark right now. Is like, is she a healer? Is it only homoerotic? Like what's
what are the rules?
What are the rules
of Rio's healing ability? A question they could answer with just 15 more minutes an episode.
That's what I'm saying. I also think to give my own personal pet theory that Mrs. Hart is not dead, some like you know, just a little bit more credence. The in the neighborhood thing could also be interpreted as like I was nearby, but like maybe hadn't actually fully like taken Sharon, or you know what I mean? Like there's
I wasn't done.
Yeah, I wasn't done.
I was in the neighborhood. She's just on ice.
She's just in the ground.
I mean, on underground on ice. Or that there's some the other thing that is that like the road itself and wherever
I feel like
wherever you go, wherever death takes people in this universe, like the proximity there.
There's also a way that, I mean, not that people can't die on the road, but I don't know, maybe they can, but they also, all of their injuries that they get during the trial, like they seem to be healed from them once they exit the trial, except for the people who are dying. So I don't know if are they dead, or if the coven like makes it out of the road, will they then be like able to, I don't know, some like vague
Oh, and there's also something too in like the with Sharon, like the way that we begin this episode with Agatha like hovering over Sharon's body,
yes,
and like I didn't think you had it in you, and then she winks, which like, what
yes.
does it mean, Agatha? What does it mean?
And even in back to the first episode, when this was more a call to like Wanda, but there was like a very not quite a thesis statement, but it was very like pointed statement about like not like don't believe who's dead is dead. Like there's
Yeah,
like,
you never know.
never know about like whoever you think is dead like could not be dead. Which again, I know that was like more talking about Wanda, which I'm here for, but I Miss Hart can't be dead.
Sharon can't be dead. I reject this information, and that's really all there is to it. It's to me, it's not a question of if, but when and how Sharon comes back.
In the zombie flash mob.
In the zombie flash mob. I'll accept that. That will work for me. I accept this offer. That's it.
MCU.
Yeah. What trial do we think is going to be next, and what do you think it's going to be?
I feel like I don't know. We asked this last week, and people already knew. So again, if you like saw this in like a
like a promo,
trailer,
I've seen no trailers or promos. I didn't see the fucking Funko Pop box.
Who's left? Patty LuPone.
It's got to be Patty LuPone. Actually, I don't even know why I'm asking that question. It's because we're not going to do anything that is like particular to Agatha or Rio or Teen, whose place on the coven is unclear to me. I also don't really know those like the rules there. Whatever, that's fine.
He's just like along for the
okay, but is he or isn't he? Because the door to the road. Now that I've watched it all more than once, I'm like. Getting more like tinfoil hatty all on my own. But the door to the road didn't open until he came downstairs. Like they were all standing there, like bickering about the song and like what they did wrong. And then, Agatha, you're trying to steal our powers, yada yada yada. But then he came downstairs, and then there was a door.
I guess we'll find out confirmation if they're like, final trial, and it's like dun dun dun, one more for
yeah. They're like, oh, what do you mean another trial? Yeah. So I feel like actually it's very clear and obvious that the next trial is going to have something to do with Patty LuPone.
To be fair, also, I feel like this episode, I mean, we've had moments with each of the witches before, but Jen didn't really figure in this episode at all, but we got a few more like moments with Patty LuPone, right? She's
looking
crying. She's doing her little freakouts and doing her fortune telling. So it felt like it was seeding more that we will see more from Patty LuPone. I'm excited about that one.
I am too. Hopefully it'll be time for her to get a proper solo.
Yes.
In the musical number of her episode, which surely there will be a musical number
in her
what era cover of The Witch's Road are you anticipating?
They've been like teasing that it's going to be like back in the day.
Oh yeah.
I don't actually know historical, like, you know.
No, but like in her trauma back in the potions episode.
Was it Victorian or something like old?
I think I said Renaissance in my plot dump, but I don't know that.
We don't know Marvel comics or history. We're doing our best.
What do we know? I also don't know that. So, here we are.
Oh, here we go. Someone watched the trailer.
Oh, here we go. All right. Miriam's got us.
Like the big trailer had Patty dressed like Glinda in some episode, I think.
Okay.
That's funny.
Great. Maybe it's next time. Maybe
Yeah,
she'll be
there was also like a call to the Wizard of Oz in this episode where Rio, when she shows up and she's like, I guess we got to walk this thing. And she like skips off. She does like the little Wizard of Oz.
the little
down the road. So
yes. Yeah. Which also too, I mean, now that like this is sort of whatever, but like Rio's reaction to the road is also really interesting, just given like everybody else, including Agatha, who has allegedly been on the road before, has been much like a greater sense of sort of like awe and drama. Like even Agatha, who is like mostly being sort of like more chill about it than the other witches, is still like, this is like a lot. Rio is just like neat, cool, skipping, woo. Which is an interesting new dynamic. Wouldn't hate a historical. Ooh, okay, wait, because all of the episodes have had this sort of like TV kind of like meta component. Yeah. So if we can get like a period drama of some sort. I guess technically this one was too, but that's not what we mean.
Not like that historical, like historical,
like further historical.
And so it's either that or it is this like Wizard of Ozzy sort of like fantasy kind of thing. So
yeah, one of those two things. Okay, well, we'll find out next time and come back and hang out with us again.
Yay. Bridgerton and smooches.
And give us smooches. Give us smooches. Put Agatha and Rio in deranged Bridgerton gowns and give us smooches.
Yes.
Thank you.
Amen. See you next time. Thank you all for joining us. And we will be back here same time next week to discuss episode 5. Bye.